How we doing? Welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Chef Twisted. Today I'm going to put together a nice chicken Wellington. Kind of got a request from somebody for a beef Wellington, but I decided I wanted to make chicken instead. Figured it would be a little bit easier to follow and less likely to mess up. So we're going to get started by putting together the duxelle. A duxelle is basically a blend of mushrooms, shallots, onions, garlic, and parsley minced up and cooked down for an extended amount of time until it becomes like a paste. So we're gonna start that by using the trusty food processor here, and we're gonna put in the mushrooms, all of them, get in there. The onions, some shallots, some minced garlic, and some parsley. Once we put all that in there, put the cover on it and just pulse it. You want to mince this stuff until it gets to a nice fine texture. Just like that. It doesn't really take long to do. If you're doing it by hand, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but this way a food processor does make life a little bit easier when you're making this type of stuff. So next we're going to cook it in a little bit of butter. So we're going to put this into the pan with some butter over here. Get it all in there. The ideal cooking time for a duxelle is about 20 minutes. That allows all of that moisture to cook out of the mushrooms and create that paste. So we're going to do that over here. That is almost a set it and forget it kind of thing. Once it starts cooking, you're just going to let it cook on a medium heat until it's fully done and nice and pasty like. So while our duxelle is cooking over there on the stove, now would be a perfect time to sear these chicken breasts. We want to sear both sides and try to get as much of the edges seared as possible. So to do that, we're going to season a little bit of salt and pepper. We've got some preheated oil over here on the burner. Hopefully it's hot enough. We'll find out in a second if it sizzles. Now, one thing I did to these chicken breasts is I actually cut the ends off so they're more of a medallion than a full uneven sized breast. So that oil was hot enough because we got a little bit of a sear there. I'll put that off to the side. Season the other side with some salt and pepper. Now we don't want to cook these all the way through. We just want to get a sear on them so that when they cook in the oven, when they're wrapped, they don't leak out and make the puff pastry all soggy. As you can see, the duxelle is actually taking on almost like a stuffing consistency. You know, your traditional turkey stuffing or whatever. This is also great for turkey stuffing, or if you want to stuff a whole chicken with this, you're just going to need a lot more mushrooms to do that. One of the tricks to making a successful Wellington is to not put everything together when it's really hot. You want to kind of let the stuff cool down to room temp or a little bit below so that when you're assembling these, they just don't fall apart. That cold is actually going to coagulate the butter in the duxelle, which is going to help wrap it around the chicken or the beef or the pork, because you can do this with pretty much any type of protein that's heartier grain style with a lot of fiber in it. Chicken, pork, beef, lamb, all of those would be good options for a Wellington. You just have to kind of throw together the different flavor profiles and figure out what's going to work best for what you like to eat. Now that everything's kind of cooled down, we're going to start the assembly process for the Wellingtons. Just giving you a heads up, making Wellington of any type is a process. This isn't necessarily the kind of thing that you're just going to say, hey, I'm in the mood for Wellington, so I'm going to whip this up in a matter of an hour. So down here on my cutting board, I have a piece of plastic wrap. This is going to help us roll up this chicken really tight. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put down the ham or the prosciutto or whatever you're going to choose to do, and that's going to be our basis for everything else. You want to kind of get a nice square or rectangle shape so that when you roll it up, it actually will roll up well with the chicken. Now you can put this kind of off to the side or in the middle like I did. Then we're going to take some of the duxelle and we're going to smear that around on the bottom. After you have it all spread out and smeared all over that ham or whatever, you're going to take your chicken breast and then you're going to just kind of roll it up. So start by rolling it on the edge and folding and rolling and folding, and you want to completely encapsulate that chicken in that ham or beef and prosciutto or whatever you're making. Fold over your edges and then slide it down to the end of your plastic wrap. This is where you're going to start making a nice tight roll. So you can kind of see how it's rolling over there, and don't be afraid to really squeeze it. And then fold over your edges and just wrap it up really tight. Just like that. So you're kind of making a ham and chicken sausage with a plastic wrap casing. Once this stuff is pretty cool and solid, solidified a little bit, now you know when it's good to go, and you're going to go ahead and get your puff pastry ready. So I just bought this at the store because I didn't want to make it. Yep, being lazy. Now what you want to do with this once you take it out of the package and thaw it out is you want to hit it with a rolling pin or something to just kind of stretch it out a little bit. It is a little thick and it is a little small, so that you just want to be able to make sure that you can wrap this thing completely around that chicken. So once you unwrap your chicken sausages, if you will, just kind of put it there on the edge and just fold over the puff pastry. Now you want to keep that kind of tight as well, and then bring in and pinch the sides for your edges, because you want to completely fill the inside of this. So you don't want this thing to really have any room to breathe except for the slits that we're going to cut on the top. So then roll it over, keep rolling it, and then just take a little bit of egg, so a little bit of beaten egg, and put it on the bottom right there. And then that's going to give you a nice little seal, kind of like licking the envelope. And then there's that. So we have a rolled Wellington. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a knife and we're going to trim off the edge of that puff pastry, because we don't really need that. You got that nice and tight, and just keep rolling it a little bit until that seam is completely on the bottom. Pinch the edges if you need to, and then transfer it to a pan. Now you do want to give this some vents to breathe so that it doesn't fill up and explode while it's cooking. So it doesn't take much, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 little slits on top, and then just give it a nice brush on top and the sides and the edges, and that's going to give that puff pastry that nice brown flaky crust. So this is a little bit of pink sea salt, Himalayan pink salt. So we're just going to put a little bit on top, like that. And then we're going to put that into a preheated 375 degree oven for about 40 minutes, or until the chicken has an internal temperature of 165 degrees. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes and that's been in the oven. We're going to go pull it out and check the temperature and make sure it's at least 165 and it has that nice golden brown crust. Well, it certainly looks pretty good. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to the Chef Twisted YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, where you can see upcoming videos and sneak peeks of whatever else I'm up to. Because in this kitchen, you never know what I'm going to do. Until then, keep on cooking.